Monday morning, March 5th, 2007. Antwerp, the most secure square mile in Europe. Bank staff open the vault and stop on the spot. A row of safe deposit boxes hangs open and empty. No alarm rang that night. No lock was forced. Nothing in the room is broken. And $28 million in diamonds is simply gone. This vault sits inside a fortress. Steel bollards, a camera on every meter, a police unit that guards these 3 streets and nothing else. Traders had just spent over $1 million hardening it, and every layer of it faces one way. Outward, braced against a truck, a gun, a stranger. But here's the part that breaks your brain. There was no break-in because the thief was invited. For over a year, he came every single day. Same friendly face, gray hair, baseball cap, and a gold box of chocolates for the staff. So they gave him a key. He copied the one that opened every box in the room. 19 years later, he has never been caught, and not one of those 120,000 carats has ever surfaced. How did a box of chocolates empty a vault? And why can no fortress defend against a friend? To understand how impossible this is supposed to be, you have to stand inside the place. The Antwerp Diamond District is 3 short streets that physically refuse to be entered by force. Steel bollards rise out of the roadway to stop a vehicle before it starts. Every meter of pavement sits under a camera. A dedicated police unit watches this one small triangle of streets around the clock, and it does nothing else. And on Hovenierstraat sits the Diamond Office, a customs choke point through which every single diamond entering or leaving Belgium must physically pass under layered control. More than half of all the diamonds on Earth move through here, something like $23 billion of them every year. Nothing about this place is casual. In the very months our man was making himself at home, the district finished a 7-figure security upgrade. Fresh street cameras, vehicle scanning at the gateways, new alarm poles. More than $1 million of new armor bolted onto a fortress that was already the envy of the world. And at the center of it stood the bank. Founded in 1960 as a diamond bank, it had grown into the largest diamond industry financing institution on the planet. This was not a corner branch. This was the industry's own bank, and inside its vault sat diamonds pledged to it as loan collateral by 8 Antwerp trading firms. The bank's vault, guarding the bank's own security against its own loans. If any room in Europe was untouchable, this was the one. This is a place that has thought about everything. It had watched the world's thieves try everything, and it had answered every one of them with more steel, more cameras, more men. Its confidence was earned and its confidence was total. Ask anyone in the trade and they would tell you the same thing. You do not rob the Antwerp Diamond District. It cannot be done. But look closely at all of that armor and notice which way it points. The bollards, the cameras, the police unit, the customs choke, the $1 million upgrade, every layer of it faces outward, braced against force. Against a truck, a gun, a tunnel, a stranger. The whole fortress is a machine for keeping the wrong people out. None of them were built to stop a friend. That was the one thing no one had thought to defend, because it was the one thing the fortress could not imagine, that the danger would not try to break in at all. That would be invited, because the last wall was not a wall at all. It was courtesy. A trusted customer tier, electronic cards handed to the diamond traders the bank had already decided to like. A hospitality lane that ran straight past everything else. And nothing in the entire fortress was designed to screen a man the system had already welcomed. So what kind of man does a fortress like this never think to stop? And if every wall it built faces outward, who was ever going to catch the danger it invited in? In 2005, a man walks into the bank on Pelikanstraat and rents a safe deposit box under the name Carlos Hector Flomenbaum. Every line of his paperwork is in order, and every line of it is a lie. The name is not his. It was lifted from an Argentine passport reported stolen abroad a few years earlier. A real identity worn by the wrong man. To the bank, he is exactly what he appears to be. A successful, well-mannered Diamond District businessman. One more trusted face in a neighborhood built on trusted faces. He is not hard to picture. Tall, 6'3", gray hair, somewhere between 55 and 60. He speaks English with an American accent, and witnesses would remember him often in a baseball cap. Not frail, not forgettable in person, a big, vigorous, friendly man. The kind of customer a teller is glad to see. And then he does the one thing no security system on Earth is built to catch. He comes back. Again and again. His visits become a daily routine. Court records would later show a man simply present again until presence itself becomes his disguise. This is the quiet genius of the thing, and it belongs to no genius at all. A fortress designed to detect the unusual has no instrument for the relentlessly usual. Every system in that building is a tripwire waiting for something to be wrong. A stranger, a forced door, a face that does not belong. He gives them none of it. He gives them the most disarming thing a suspicious system can receive: routine. The alarms wait for the break-in. The cameras wait for the stranger. But a man who is there every single day stops being a stranger. He becomes part of the scenery, the way the potted plant in the lobby is part of the scenery. He becomes furniture. And nobody, anywhere, watches the furniture. Think about what that costs the fortress. Every additional camera, every extra guard, every $1 million upgrade makes it better at catching the unfamiliar and does absolutely nothing about a man who has made himself familiar. The more they hardened the walls, the more valuable it became to simply be waved through the gate. He was not fighting for their security. He was quietly turning its greatest strength into a blind spot. He would keep that box for more than a year. Prosecutors later argued the plan was older still. And here is the part that should make your skin prickle. As familiar as he became, no one at that bank knew who he was. Not really. Later, when it all came apart, the police would have to publicly beg for anyone at all, who could say they knew this man. What does a man do once an entire bank has quietly stopped seeing him? And how does a stranger turn a fortress's own trust into its blindest spot? Here is the moment the title promised, and it is exactly as absurd as it sounds, and it is true. According to Philip Klaus, spokesman for the Diamond High Council, the man brought chocolates for the personnel. That is the fact on the record from the industry's own governing body. Not a diversion, not a trick box with a tool inside chocolates, given the way a pleasant regular gives chocolate, as a kindness. And with them, patiently, he wins something the fortress never thought to protect. He wins the trust of the bank's vault staff, the single human hinge the entire room turns on. Because inside this bank, trust is not just a warm feeling. Trust is a status. And status is something the institution is about to make official. Sit for a second in the chair on the other side of that counter. A tall, courteous man you have seen nearly every day for a year. A customer in good standing, arms full of small kindnesses, asking for nothing strange. You would have trusted him. Anyone would have. That is the whole point, and it is why failure here belongs to no single person. When anyone would have trusted him becomes your last line of defense, you no longer have a security layer. You have a habit. There is no protocol in that building for demoting a man everyone likes. No form to fill out that says, "We have decided for no stated reason to suspect our friendliest customer." And so, trust can only ever go in one direction. It accumulates. It hardens. It never gets withdrawn, because withdrawing it would mean the institution admitting it had been wrong to like him. And nothing in the fortress was built to do that. The feeling was about to become hardware. Welcome was about to become a key. The bank was ready to hand a man who did not exist an electronic card that opened its vault. What does a bank hand a man once it has officially decided to trust him? And how do you take back a welcome no one ever built a way to withdraw? The card was not a favor, it was a program. The bank ran a real trusted customer tier, and Flomenbaum was enrolled in it, one of several diamond traders given an electronic card to access the vault. Read that slowly because it undoes the whole myth of the master's thief. He did not defeat the bank's security. He signed up for part of the bank that was built to go around it. The hospitality lane did exactly what it was designed to do. It welcomed him in. Reports describe a VIP customer with access that reached beyond ordinary hours, a man who could be near the vault when the district around him had gone quiet. And somewhere in all that trusted, unremarkable coming and going, he reached the point of no return. He copied the vault's master key, not a key to his box, the master. One copied key that answered every box in the room. Belgian court coverage would later lay it out plainly. Trusted access put the keys within reach, and he copied them. That is the entire mechanism. There is no laser grid in this story, no cracked safe, no genius at a keypad. There is a courtesy program, a well-liked regular, and a copy of a key that was simply left within reach of the person everyone had agreed to trust. And here's where a strange, delicious gap opens between you and everyone in this story. You now know how it was done. The police, a full week after they found the empty boxes, would stand at microphones and admit they were unsure of his exact method. The bank itself would not actually establish it until a trial more than 2.5 years later. From this point forward, you know more than every institution on screen. If a heist pulled off with good manners and a box of chocolates is your kind of story, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe. It genuinely helps these deep dives reach more people. Now back to the card that opened the most secure vault in Europe. The con is finished. Nothing has been taken yet. No alarm is ringing because nothing is wrong yet. Everything from here is patience. Friday, March 2nd, 2007. A customer visits the vault room, doing ordinary customer things. He is the last customer this vault will ever serve before it opens on a $28 million hole. So what does a $28 million theft look like when nothing in the room looks wrong? And how long can a fortress stand perfect guard over a vault that is already empty? Now enjoy the part where the most secure square mile in Europe guards absolutely nothing, flawlessly, for an entire weekend. Friday, March 2nd. A man is the last one in the vault room before the doors close for the weekend, and the cameras record exactly what they are meant to record. A customer doing customer things. Nothing looks wrong because to the machine, nothing is wrong. What the court would establish years later is that the diamonds, some 21 kilograms of rough and cut stones, left the building right around here. But nobody knows that yet. Not for years. For more than 60 hours, the fortress performs beautifully. For no one. The bollards stand guard. The dedicated police unit watches its triangle of streets around the clock. The cameras roll. The patrols come back green. Every check clean, every sweep perfect. The whole magnificent apparatus humming along in total confidence, protecting a vault that, by the court's later account, was already empty. Picture it. A city block of the finest security money can buy. Standing proud watch, all systems nominal, guarding a room with nothing in it. 3 days of immaculate, world-class security wrapped around a hole. The alarm never trips, not because it failed, but because nothing on that weekend gives it a reason to. There is nothing to detect. The crime is already over, and everyone is still guarding the scene of it. And this is the joke the fortress tells itself. In 2007, investigators could not even say when it happened. The stones, they admitted, were taken either Monday morning or the previous Friday. At the time, this robbery did not have a timestamp. It would take a courtroom years later to finally fix the day. The most surveilled square mile on the continent could not tell you which day it was robbed. Monday, March 5th. Routine morning operations. The doors open, the staff walk in, and the timeline docks right back into that first image, the row of empty boxes, seen now with everything you know. A $28 million hole now exists in the most secure square mile in Europe. And you brace for the sirens, the lockdown, the manhunt. The record shows nothing. For 7 days, nothing. Where is the lockdown that a $28 million hole is supposed to trigger? And what does it mean when a bank with this size answers a robbery with total silence? For a full week, the institution that was just robbed says not one word about it. From March 5th to March 12th, the police make nothing public, and to this day, no reason has ever been given for the silence. Not a cover-up, not a stated strategy, just a refusal that sits there in the record, unexplained. The vault is discovered on a Monday, and the world is told the following Monday, 1 week to the day. $28 million in pledged collateral, the loan security of 8 trading firms gone, and for 7 days the most important diamond bank on earth has nothing to say. A week after finding the empty vault, the police step in front of the cameras and confess, on the record, that they are unsure of his exact method. Sit with how strange that is. This is not a mystery to the public. It is a mystery to the victims. The bank has been robbed and cannot say how. The fortress cannot describe the door it was walked out of. You, meanwhile, have known the method since we were 11 minutes into this story. That gap between what you know and what the institution can admit is the real engine now. The humiliation has climbed a rung, It is no longer merely that the fortress was robbed, it is that the fortress was robbed and could not name the mechanism of its own robbery, and it would not name it, would not truly learn it for more than 2.5 years. Who is the favorite customer that nobody can actually name? And how do you hunt a man an entire bank saw daily and never once knew? On Monday, March 12th, everything lands at once, and all of it is drawn from the institution's own hands. First, the sketch. For a man who visited daily for a year, there is no clean photograph to release, so the police put out a composite drawn from staff descriptions, a pencil portrait of a face a whole bank had seen 100 times and never once truly looked at. Then the money, a $2.6 million reward announced by the Antwerp prosecutor's spokeswoman Dominique Renier, and her office pointedly refuses to say whose money it is. Anonymous money hunting an anonymous man. A national tip line goes live, and there is a public appeal for anyone who knew him, which is when the quiet seed of this whole story blooms into something almost funny. The Diamond District's favorite customer has no known address, no known associates, no known life. Everybody knew him. Nobody knew him. Then comes the confession, and it does not come from the bank. On March 18th, The Independent publishes the Diamond High Counsel's account in Philip Klaus's own words. He used no violence, Klaus says. He used one weapon, and that is his charm, to gain confidence. He bought chocolates for the personnel. The industry's own governing body, standing up in public and conceding exactly how its fortress fell. Meanwhile, the bank's entire public vocabulary across this whole affair amounts to a single sentence. The industry confesses on the bank's behalf, because the bank has nothing to say. Read those two sentences back to back, and you can feel the whole scandal in miniature. An entire industry robbed of $28 million, and the only institution willing to explain it out loud is a spokesman describing a man handing out chocolates. Not a breached firewall, not a cut cable charm. The most fortified trade on earth, undone by the oldest tool there, is, and honest enough or embarrassed enough to admit it in a newspaper. Within 2 weeks of discovery, the security expert Bruce Schneier files the whole thing away as a textbook case of social engineering. Let that land. Before anyone is arrested, before a single stone is recovered, before the case even has a suspect, it has already become a lesson. The heist becomes coursework before it ever becomes an arrest. And the net goes out. Stone descriptions to all 25 diamond exchanges worldwide, a 133-carat rough that cannot move without origin certification, and 41 blue brilliants tiny, individually identifiable, flagged everywhere a diamond can be sold. Then the manhunt catches something. Belgian press reported that investigators tracked a rented car's movements across Germany and the Netherlands, thousands of kilometers in 3 weeks. And on April 4th, 2007, at Frankfurt, a man named Elisir Mishali is seized as he tries to leave the country, arrested as a suspected accomplice and extradited to Belgium. A man in handcuffs, extradited for the Antwerp vault theft. Hold that frame and watch what Belgian justice manages to do with him. So, is the man in handcuffs at Frankfurt finally the favorite customer they hunted? And what happens when the state finally has a face, a trail, and a man in a cell, and it still isn't enough? Antwerp's own systems, in the end, produce no name. The name comes back across the Atlantic. American law enforcement recognizes the circulated image and returns something Antwerp never had: an identity with a record attached. On April 16, 2007, 6 weeks after the heist, a Belgian daily runs the headline that they know the diamond thieves. The main suspect is identified in Belgian press and court reporting as Yehuda Mishali. And the priors reframe the whole picture, though not the way you would expect. Per US and Belgian reporting, the suspects had prior American convictions for the same kind of crime, safe deposit thefts. A Chicago newspaper had recorded a 1998 arrest of a Yehuda Mishali over a safe deposit diamond theft worth $513,292, the very same shape of crime, 50 times smaller. So, the man was no phantom prodigy. He was a known, ordinary professional, and the system still could not see him because it was never looking at the people it had decided to like. That is the whole lesson in one breath. Not a mastermind who beat the fortress. A familiar face the fortress refused to doubt. Belgium had his real name in the newspapers within 6 weeks. Sketch, face, name, record, and a man in a cell. The state's knowledge is now total. December 12, 2007. The Antwerp Chamber of Indictment releases Elisir Mashali, the one man they ever actually caught, the one man in handcuffs, the one body the state had to show for its $28 million wound, walks free, 2 years before the case is even heard. Everything the manhunt achieved in Frankfurt, the tracking, the seizure, the extradition, quietly comes to nothing. The trial itself crawls. A date set, postponed, finally opening in October 2009. And when it at last opens, the courtroom finally hears the mechanism, testimony establishing the copied master key. Understand what that means. The institution does not learn how it was robbed by its own investigators, or its own cameras, or its own vault. It learns it from the witness stand, more than 2.5 years after the boxes came empty. The bank sits in a courtroom to find out how the bank was robbed. The men in that courtroom are acquitted. No confessions, no evidence, no eyewitnesses, nothing that could tie the people present to the crime. Then, in November 2009, the Antwerp Correctional Court delivers its verdict, 987 days after the vault first opened on that hole. Sit with those two numbers side by side. The thief needed a single weekend. The state needed 987 days, and at the end of them, it was convicted of an absence. The main perpetrator, recognized on security footage, is found guilty in absentia. 5 years in prison, plus millions of damages, payable only if he is ever apprehended. A sentence written entirely in the subjunctive and read aloud to an empty chair. And now the law finally has to say what this even was. It can barely find the words. Belgian law barely knew what to call it. Nothing was forced. No one was threatened. He simply unlocked what the bank had taught itself to leave open for him. The gavel falls on an absence. And then, for 17 more years, nothing happens at all. So across the 17 silent years that follow, does anything ever reach him? And when the full machinery of justice convicts an empty chair, who actually won? Look at the ledger, 19 years on, and read the stillness. Not one of those roughly 120,000 carats has ever surfaced anywhere on Earth. Not a single stone, in 19 years, in any market, on any continent. The 41 blue diamonds, so distinctive that no legitimate market could ever touch them, flagged at all 25 exchanges, have never once been seen, which means the loot is the cruelest thing a fortune can be. A man walked out with $28 million he may never be able to turn into a single dollar he can spend. The $2.6 million golden tip was never claimed. 19 years, an anonymous fortune offered to anyone who could name him, and no one ever collected. The tip line went silent. The bank's total public statement, across all of it, is still one sentence. And the 8 firms' collateral, the diamonds the bank was holding as its own loan security, were never recovered. The industry's own bank could not even protect the industry's own guarantees. Then there is the quiet part, the ending almost no one knows. Under the Belgian Penal Code in force when he was convicted, an unserved sentence like his expires 10 years after the judgment becomes final, and only an arrest can stop that clock ticking. No one ever stopped it. No arrest, no hearing, no development of any kind. The 5 years and the millions in damages sat there on paper, waiting for a man who never came, while the calendar quietly did its work. So somewhere around 2019, with no headline and no ceremony, the punishment itself simply ran out of time and dissolved. He did not just escape the sentence, he outlived it. The law had one thing left to hold over him, a piece of paper, and even that expired before it ever touched him. So how did one polite regular do all of this? It is tempting to reach for the word genius, and the whole story quietly refuses to let you. Strip away the chocolates and the charm, and here is the honest answer. 3 concrete failures and nothing more. A courtesy program that screened nobody, trust allowed to stand in for key procedures, and an investigation that never even understood when its own crime happened. That is the entire machine. Not magic, not a genius, a bank that automated its trust, decided in advance who it liked, and then lost the ability to see the man it had decided to like. And that is the idea worth carrying out of here, long after the diamonds and the dates blur. Institutions do not usually get beaten by force or by brilliance. They get beaten because somewhere they turn trust into a procedure, and a procedure cannot tell the difference between a friend and a man who has simply learned to look like one. Go back to that first Monday morning now and read it again. No alarm, no broken lock. It was all literally true. Nothing was ever broken, because nothing ever needed to be broken. The only thing that failed was the assumption that courtesy is harmless. Today, the security industry still teaches this heist in its classrooms, where Schneier's line has become gospel. People are the weakest security link, almost always. The man who proved it teaches a lesson in rooms full of experts, and yet the robbery never even earned a Wikipedia page. The institution lost the diamonds, the case, the manhunt, the sentence, and the argument. Everyone lost, except the man with the chocolates. And the last word belongs to the industry itself, told The Independent in the spring of 2007. You can have all the safety and security you want, but if someone uses their charm to mislead people, it won't help. He was never caught. Neither was the last man we covered. Go watch how he did it. The chocolate man took a fortune with charm and a lie. The next man took a bigger one with nothing but math and did nothing wrong at all. If you want to see how a banned card counter turned a Hong Kong racetrack into an algorithm that couldn't lose, won nearly $1 billion, and left a $16 million winning ticket uncollected, watch this video.